I do not understand why, today, my mother is not sleeping beside me. And that single empty space already feels bigger than the whole room. The last thing I remember clearly is her fur surrounding me, warm and soft, while my face pressed into the safest smell I knew. My brothers and sisters were crowded around her too, breathing against me, shifting in sleep, making the nest feel alive in every direction. I thought that was how life worked. Warmth underneath, family all around. No reason to wonder whether morning could ever change.
Meow.
Then something lifted me away before I was ready, and the ground of everything familiar seemed to slide out from under my chest. At first, I thought it would only last a moment, the way small interruptions sometimes pass before the world settles back together. I stretched my neck and searched for her shape, certain I would find her again if I looked hard enough and called quickly. I let out a tiny cry, because she always answered fear, and I still believed fear was something her voice could erase.
Meow.
I waited for the answering sound that usually came at once, that soft, living promise telling me I had not vanished yet. But this time, the air stayed empty, and the silence was so wrong that my whole body listened harder instead of relaxing. I was carried farther than my senses understood, until even the memory of our sleeping place began feeling thinner inside me too. Her scent grew faint in the air behind me, then fainter still, as though the path back home was quietly being erased. When that smell finally disappeared, panic arrived all at once, sharp and huge, bigger than my small paws could understand at all. I do not know what goodbye means, only that something essential was suddenly missing, like warmth torn out while I was awake. It felt as if a piece of my tiny world had been pulled away, leaving my chest hanging over a terrible emptiness.
Meow.
So I cried louder,
Meow.
not because I was angry, and not because I was difficult,
Meow.
but because calling was all I had.
Meow.
Each cry was my whole body reaching backward,
Meow.
trying to pull the old world toward me before it vanished
Meow.
completely for good. The new place smelled strange from floor to air, with no milk scent, no nest smell, and no family breathing nearby anywhere. Instead, there were large sounds, unfamiliar shadows, and empty spaces that made everything seem too open, too cold, and too exposed inside. Nothing here told my body how to rest, because nothing here carried the rhythm I had trusted since my first sleep ever. So I hid in a corner, not to reject this place, but to keep one small border between myself and all this strangeness. That narrow space felt like the last piece of safety I could still hold, even if it only came from walls nearby. I curled into myself and tried licking my chest the way my mother used to calm me when fear shook through me. But my own tongue did not feel like her care, and my own smell could not wrap around me the same way. I was too small to comfort myself properly, because everything I knew about safety had always begun with her warm body there. So I cried again, and every sound leaving me carried the same frightened question my paws could never reach on their own. Mother,
Meow.
where are you now? And can you still
Sniff,
feel me
sniff,
calling from a place
meow.
that does not smell like us anymore?
Meow.
Did you know I was left here? Or did the
Meow.
world close behind me before you could come and find me again?
Meow.
Or are you still answering somewhere far away?
Meow.
So while I am the only one trapped inside this
Meow.
silence that feels endless now.
Meow.
The strangest part was not the room itself, but the terrible understanding growing inside me while every answer failed to come back. I began to feel that no matter how often I called, my mother's voice might never rise through this air again here. That was when the room became heavier, because fear is one thing, but hopeless waiting is a deeper, colder kind of pain. I remembered the way she used her chin to guide me closer whenever I drifted too far from her warmth while sleeping. I remembered the steady heat beneath her belly, where nothing bad could reach me, because the world stopped being sharp there completely. I remembered sleeping with my feet touching my brothers and sisters, and how belonging once felt so simple I never questioned it. Back there, I never wondered where I belonged, because belonging was not a puzzle. It was just the air around me always. Here, every object feels borrowed from another life, as though I have been placed inside a story that was already happening without me. This bowl is not my bowl yet. This blanket is not my blanket yet. And even rest feels like borrowed permission here. I felt less like a kitten arriving somewhere, and more like a tiny creature dropped alone onto a different planet entirely today. Then something changed. Not enough to erase my fear, but enough to interrupt the feeling that every part of this place rejected me. Near my corner, a soft cloth appeared and stayed there. Close enough to notice, yet distant enough that I did not panic immediately. Its scent was gentle and unfamiliar, not my mother's scent, but not a dangerous scent either. And that difference mattered to me. I was still frightened, still aching with missing, still unsure whether sleep or crying would hurt less inside this strange room tonight. But for the first time since her smell disappeared, I did not feel completely abandoned inside the silence surrounding me there anymore.
Meow.
I knew I would probably keep crying through the dark,
Meow.
because night makes
Meow.
missing louder when nothing distracts the heart at all.
Meow.
I knew I might wake suddenly and search for her with my nose, before remembering this air can no longer answer me. I knew I might squeeze into narrow spaces again, choosing pressure and shadow because small places sometimes imitate the safety of bodies. That would not mean I was stubborn or cold, only that grief was still bigger than my courage inside this tiny body. I am just too young to understand why the first love I knew could disappear without warning between one breath and another. So the sadness lives in simple places, in my ears waiting for purring, in my nose searching for milk, in my paws needing nothing. Even sleep does not fully protect me, because sleep can open old feelings, then leave me awake before comfort ever returns again. Silence itself becomes heavy here, as if the room is listening to my loss and holding it still around me all night. Every new smell has to be tested carefully, because nothing deserves trust yet just because it happens to be nearby to me. Every moving shadow asks my body a hard question, and my body keeps answering with caution before curiosity can speak at all. My belly wants comfort sooner than my mind wants exploring, because hunger for safety is louder than interest on this first day. Inside me, fear and curiosity pull in opposite directions, one telling me to hide deeper, the other asking what else exists here. Sometimes the open room feels too wide, as though stepping out would make me visible to every danger I cannot name yet. Sometimes that soft cloth feels like a tiny island, not home, but a place where my breathing can slow without breaking apart. Little by little, my body starts memorizing corners, distances, smells, and quiet pockets where the room does not push too hard back. My ears still twitch at sudden noise, but they do not stay frozen as long as they did at first today here. My breathing still catches sometimes, yet it also begins to loosen whenever nothing terrible follows the sounds around me after them anymore. Before moving, I watch the room for a long time, learning whether stillness here means safety or only another pause before danger. Eventually, one paw reaches past my corner, then waits there trembling, as if the floor itself must prove it will not betray me. When nothing terrible happens, I let the second paw follow, and that small decision feels larger than any distance I have crossed. The cloth begins to carry a little of my scent too, and that makes it feel less like a stranger's place now. Even the bowl stops feeling entirely foreign once its smell repeats enough times that my body can place it somewhere familiar inside. A patch of warmth on the floor can hold me for a while, and resting there no longer feels completely impossible today. None of this removes my mother from my heart, and none of it makes the old nest suddenly hurt less inside me. But fear changes shape when small routines appear, because predictability gives my body a thin thread to hold on to each day now. One smell returns, one corner stays safe, one warm place remains warm. And slowly the room stops feeling endless to me anymore. I still listen for an impossible purr sometimes, because hope does not leave all at once just because loss is real now. I still wake with the urge to search, but searching no longer completely breaks me the moment I remember where I am. There are moments when I almost step forward before fear calls me back, and that tug between both feelings is exhausting inside. Still, each small return matters, because coming back to the edge means part of me is already trying to live here now. The room is not my family, yet it is slowly becoming something other than danger, and that difference is enormous to me. My body begins to learn that not every silence means abandonment, and not every new scent arrives to harm me at all. That lesson is small and fragile, but it helps my heartbeat loosen whenever the room stays gentle around me for longer now. If I sleep here one day without jerking awake, it will not mean my mother's memory has faded or failed inside me. If I curl up on this cloth and rest, it will not mean the old nest stopped being sacred to me first. If I lift my head at a new sound instead of hiding, it will only mean survival is learning a second language. Trust, for me, will not arrive like forgetting, but like breathing through the ache without losing who first soothed it inside me. My mother remains the first shape of safety inside me, the first rhythm that taught my fear when to soften and rest. Nothing in this new place can erase that beginning, because beginnings stay deep even after the world changes around them for good. But maybe this place can hold the fear that remains, instead of making it grow larger every time I breathe here now. Maybe these corners can witness my shaking without swallowing me. And maybe this floor can learn the weight of my paws gently. Maybe the air itself can become less strange, carrying enough familiar traces of me that I no longer feel erased here anymore. Maybe my crying will one night soften into quiet listening, not because I stopped missing her, but because terror finally loosened inside. Maybe I will someday step fully into this room and feel not brave exactly, but steady enough to keep going from there. And when that day comes, it will not be betrayal, only a small life continuing while still carrying its first grief forward. I will simply be a kitten learning that even after losing the safest place, another gentle place might hold what is left.